Hey there,
Um,
Eric.
how's it going? I'm here with Baron Vaughn. I almost said actor, but subject, one of the subjects of Anxiety Club. But I guess given the context of Anxiety Club, maybe actor's not that far off. What got you involved in this?
Well, I am an actor. I will tell you that. I'm an actor and a comedian and all these other hyphenates that
Singer,
come in.
puppeteer, director,
Sing.
writer. I saw your IMDb. That thing is
I
out of
wouldn't call
control.
myself a puppeteer. I know real puppeteers, and that's I'm not as skilled as they are. But yeah, I mean, this came about mostly because of the director, Wendy Lobel, who she reached out. I don't know if I wouldn't even say it was random. It felt random to me, but it wasn't random to her. But she basically gave me the spiel about how she was working on a project that, and I think back then she was already calling it the Anxiety Club, but that she wanted to feature and talk to comedians who specifically talk about anxiety or mental health issues on stage. And I don't know if she had seen me herself or just came to me through a reference, but we started corresponding that way. And I sat down with her, and it was a while ago now that I think about it. A long time ago, sat down with her a couple different times in a couple different situations. If you saw the documentary, there was one of those times I was walking down the street. And she was like, we're just gonna film you walking down the street. And I'm like, all right, got anxiety about that. How do I walk? How do I look like a human? Can you start I just got self-conscious, which is always fun. Yeah, and then years later, she told me, hey, I finished it and invited me out to a film festival. It was Doc NYC, and I saw it and I was blown away. I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? I had no idea that this was going to be the result of a thing I sat down for years ago. So that's my little story on that.
Not to add to more anxiety, but what's it like being approached for something like this? Hey, you look like you have mental issues. You want to join our thing? Or
Well, it's not the first time I've talked about stuff like this, and I do talk about it in my act,
yeah.
right? And so I'm not a stranger to being a part of projects or panels or podcasts that address these issues. So I want to say made a name for myself, but like I'm known in some of the spaces that these things are in which these things are talked about.
Yeah, I think nowadays, like obviously in comedy, you're always able to kind of hide your vulnerabilities behind the jokes. But I think just in general, people are a lot more open about stuff like this these days, as opposed to back in the day where it's pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get over it. People don't really think that way anymore.
I mean, I think that's still out there where there are people who kind of
So
look at
are
these
flat
things.
earthers, but we don't listen to them.
Very true. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely less stigmatized than it once was. And I feel like, at least around some of the people that I knew, like some people weren't talking about it like I was on stage in my particular circles. Obviously, there are people out there that do talk about it who I love and respect and have been talking about it for years, like Mark Maron, who's in the doc, or Maria Bamford, who talks about a lot of her struggles and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely less stigmatized now, but I also think that there's something to talking about the fact of anxiety, like just as a thing that exists in your life, versus talking about how you actually cope with the things. Because I feel like anxiety is something that a lot of people feel. I think everyone feels it. It's a natural human emotion, but knowing how to actually have a relationship with it, work with it, that's stuff that I feel like gets doesn't get talked about as much as the fact of anxiety itself.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this documentary because it that actually kind of gives you not all the tools, but it gives you a couple of here's a Swiss Army knife to kind of deal with that later on, which is great for a documentary like that because that's kind of what you want from it.
Exactly. Another thing I like about the documentary that you kind of see a lot of different perspectives on how to deal with these things.
A thing I really enjoyed about this was just watching. First of all, it wasn't a bummer. I mean, having comedians in it, so it's definitely has its levity, but also this is one of those like once it's out and I can like kind of watch it and then put it like this is something I could just listen to, kind of put it on
Mm.
like a podcast and just kind of listen to you guys talk and kind of go back and forth on that.
That's great to hear. I'm happy that you feel that way. Yeah, that's something that struck me about the doc as well, is that it's not a bummer. It's not a bummer, and it also is not talking at you. It's not like a lecture either. It's not educational for the sake of educational. So that's what's a very human doc.
Yeah. So having a documentary people follow you around, were there any insights or even watching this documentary later on, were there any insights you got of yourself or oh, I didn't know that about myself. I'll store that away and maybe use that to help me later on.
I mean, there's still, even though I know that I have anxiety issues, I don't always know exactly how they function or manifest. Like, well, I don't always know how it looks and sounds, and because I'm inside it. So sometimes it's like I don't have that outside perspective. So seeing it, kind of seeing the way that I guess I present, that's always kind of insightful and just being like, seeing like the way that I can tell, like when I'm watching myself, oh, I was kind of hyperventilating right there. I can see that like I was out of breath, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like insight, I guess it's the biggest thing that I think about is just about, I'll call it narratives, right? Anxiety is an emotion, is a feeling, it's an experience. But then the problems start when I start to attach a narrative to why I'm feeling this way, instead of just accepting that this is how I feel right now. But then
Yeah.
if I attach a story to it, oh, I'm feeling this way because everyone hates me or whatever that story happens to be, that gets me further and further away from what I'm actually feeling. An old teacher of mine used to say, beware having emotions about your emotions, because then you put another layer on top of another layer on top of now I'm scared that I'm anxious and I'm mad that I'm scared and I'm sad that I'm mad that I'm scared. Then I don't even, I just keep putting layers and layers on top of it. And that's a thing that I still think about a lot. And just, I feel like a lot of the subjects in the documentary are expressing that idea in their own ways as well. Just trying to be with the feeling and not attach something else to it, not attach a story to it.
And I guess just to get away from anxiety for a bit, dude, let's talk about your IMDb credits because you've done everything, and I gotta say, I'm impressed. Acting,
Hey,
directing,
I
writing,
appreciate that.
everything. I imagine that stand-up would be the your top one, just because most stand-ups usually say that, like they love getting on stage and do their stand-up. But not so much what's your favorite, but what's of all the different credits and all the different hats you've worn, what's the one that you like the most that you don't get to do as much? And then
Hmm.
what's one that says they say it's good? I tried it and I do not want to touch that again. I respect those who do it, but I do not want to be doing that one again.
Yeah, I feel like all of these different things, like they kind of are like different skill sets and sometimes scratch different itches that I have. But I'll say that when it comes to stand up, I definitely feel like I'm a creature of live performance more than anything else. So yeah, stand up. I love doing theater as well, like doing plays and stuff like that. Acting on stage, it's very different than acting on camera. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's live. There's an audience and there's an energy that you feed off of and give back to, and that's its own sort of a thing. So live performance is always my preference when I can get it. The thing that I feel like, and it's almost a version of live performance too, the thing that I feel like sometimes I am not as good at are almost like hosting experiences, like when I've had to be a host of something as myself. Sometimes I feel uncomfortable in that sort of role because it's like I get in my head about whether or not anyone's going to like me or whether or not I can be myself. Even though stand up is kind of like that, hosting is its own sort of thing. And I feel like I've been good at it, but it's the thing that probably more like being myself as a host or as a panelist sometimes on a live show. That's where I feel like I'm the most anxious and most uncomfortable and can't think or just relax as much.
I see. Well, shoot, I wish we had an hour to talk. You're pretty damn fun. But I guess we'll just end. Just want to get ask everyone this. Want to get a movie recommendation from you, either a movie that's personal to you or something that's this movie's really good and no one ever talks about it. And also, since you're a stand-up, I'd like to get a stand-up comic that someone should follow. This everyone knows who Bill Burr is, but who's the guy or the gal that's just real funny and no one talks about as well.
Movie recommendations. I mean, I'm a big movie head. I love movies. And it's really hard not to mention K-pop Demon Hunters right now, just because I have kids and they loved it. And I was like, you know what? This is really good, kind of a thing. I'm trying to think of a movie I saw recently that I really liked. I do sometimes, you know what? I'll tell you this, Godzilla minus one, if you didn't get a chance to see that, whoa, that was something else. I really liked that. So I'll say Godzilla minus one. I do like a good action movie, a good monster movie every now and then. And Godzilla is both of those things. It's an action monster movie. And for comedians, I mean, I love comedians. There's so many of them. There's so many of them.
Well, you only get one.
I only get
Man,
one.
now you can give as many as you want.
I guess I would like to shout out my guy, Brian Simpson. who he did have a Netflix special that I directed, slightly biased. But Brian Simpson, I think he's a true talent and he's out there working his butt off. And I think that people should go see him.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining me. And Anxiety Club is releasing digitally on Jolt on August 15th. And yeah, I can't recommend this doc enough. It's just one of those things. It's entertaining, it's poignant, and I think it speaks to a lot more people than probably even you and the filmmakers realize. And I really appreciate this documentary and congratulations on it.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for talking, man.